All right. Let's we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get this cracking. Let us get this thing cracking. Um. So. So. Um. Hi guys. This is me once again coming to you on a live stream. First and foremost, I want to apologize for the inconsistency of the regular show, which we do on this channel. And that happens for a lot of reasons. One of which is I am completely inundated with a lot of stuff that happens in my real life. It's got to do with work. It's got to do with some personal development courses I'm currently taking a lot of my time, some script writing courses as well, also taking a ton of my time. So the moment I'm done with that for the day, I just don't have it in me to come and deliver the same level of quality edited videos. And like I said, if you guys know, for those of you who follow the channel, I do this by myself. I'm only able to do so much. I'm one dude. It's not like I'm monetized yet. We ain't monetized yet. We're heading towards that goal. Hopefully we will get that goal. If you guys continue to support the channel, we will most likely hit that goal later this year. When that happens and we grow this channel to a sizable chunk, I mean, we're at just over 2,000 followers. The moment we get that to a sizable chunk, hopefully this takes off and we will no longer have the tag of small channel. So once again, I really apologize for all the delays. You guys are going to have to deal with my persona on a live stream for now, because with live streams I find that I'm able to talk with you guys and share my thoughts without necessarily going through the hassle and the stress of putting the editing together. The edited shows will keep coming, but just not at the moment, okay? And I'm still trying to work out the schedule for the live chat. Listen, guys, it's a lot. YouTube is a lot. Speaking of YouTube, another reason why I've had some delays is, for those of you who followed the UFC 311, I did live stream UFC 311 a while ago, a couple of days ago, and I got hit with a strike. Well, not really a strike, more like a copyright restriction from the UFC because they claimed I used their audio. So I had to appeal that. That got released. The appeal process went through, got released. So my channel was on a freeze, man. Now, I don't even know how that's going to look like in the future, because I do want to also live stream more UFC events, and I also want to live stream the upcoming fight between Isreal Adesanya and Nasruddin Imavov. And with that being said, let's talk about the topics we're going to have today. So today on this live stream, I want to share my thoughts on a couple of stuff, right? We're going to be talking about how my topics lined up, as I always do. I am going to be discussing and sharing my thoughts on Isreal Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov, the fight night coming up in 2 days' time. That's on the 1st of February, I believe. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to be talking about Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Finally. We're going to do that. We're going to be talking about, we're going to have conversation about Conor McGregor and Jeremy Stephens, and I'm going to go into further details on that. For those of you who remember Jeremy Stephens, Mr. Who the fuck is that guy, right? So we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to also share my thoughts on Tony Ferguson's exit from the UFC. Got a few things to say about that. For those of you who followed, you know where my position is on Tony Ferguson. But I still want to share a few things because other events have happened around Ferguson's exit. I'm going to share what those are. Another thing we're going to talk about. Okay, this is old news in the community, in the casual space, in the MMA space, in the fight game. This is a bit of old news. But I haven't talked about it. And I really have thoughts about it. Kevin Holland's disrespect of Quentin Rampage Jackson. I am going to talk about that. I'm sorry, it's old news, hey, but TDC did not share his thoughts on that news. So we're going to talk about that. I'm sorry, I just have to. We're going to talk about the GFL, and last but not least, we'll talk about the last two for this live stream will be Mr. Money Moicano. Money Moicano, an update on him, right? I have an update on Money Moicano that made me feel really good. And the possibility of Illia Toporia's next fight. We'll get into it, okay? So now, let us start with style bender. So Israel Adesanya, as you guys call it, but the actual name is Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya, aka the last style bender. You guys know I'm a fan of style bender. I do like style bender's fight style. I like that he stands up and he strikes pretty good. You know, his ground game sucks ass. It's okay. It's decent, easy. In case you see this, it's decent. Don't get me wrong. I probably kick my ass, but compared to other guys in that division who are actually a lot better on the ground, the ground game is Israel Adesanya's kryptonite. We all know that, right? As exposed by many people, including first person to ever give Israel a loss in the UFC, who was Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz literally took him to the ground enough times to keep him there and get that win. Izzy is fighting Nazarene Imavov. Listen, the names, when those names are out there, I can only say them so much. I'm not obligated to get the names right like Bruce Buffer, and I am not obligated to get the names right like Joe Rogan or whoever is at the broadcast booth. But listen, I try, okay? I try to do some fairly decent good with the names. Imavov, right? So that fight is coming up, and from all indications, based on what Style Bender was saying, that fight, that was the only fight that was handed to him by the UFC. And when I heard Izzy say that in a video online, I thought to myself, that can't be the best the UFC has to offer. But then I looked at the roster and I said, what makes sense for Israel Adesanya? Who makes sense for him to fight right now? He's not entirely a gatekeeper, but Izzy's been at the top, guys, since about, 2018? He's been at the top until Alex dethroned him and he got that throne back, and then Duplessis, went in there and did his thing. Oh, sorry, Sean Strickland went in there and did his thing, and then Dricus fought Izzy, and Izzy was unable to reclaim the belt. So what do you do with Stylebender? He's still one of the biggest names in the sport. Literally, Izzy's name is one of the top 5 names in the sport. Not the UFC, the sport as a whole. Right? Izzy's name is one of the top 5 names in the sport, hands down. Don't want to argue with anybody. Please do not open your mouth and spew any rubbish about that. These are verifiable facts in terms of numbers, the crowd that he brings in, the eyes that watch his fight, whether it's people who want to see him win or people who want to see him lose. You guys, listen. It brings numbers, right? Okay, so back to my point. Izzy is fighting Imavov, right? If you're the UFC, what do you do with him? He can't go for another title fight. And he's not necessarily a gatekeeper. And he's maybe 1 or 2 wins always away from the belt. And it makes more money for the UFC when Isreal Adesanya has the belt at middleweight. Can we all agree on that? Right? Okay, great. When you think about it, there's really no one for Izzy to fight right now in that division. It has to be an up-and-comer. It has to be somebody who has been on a fairly impressive win streak. It's definitely not Sean Strickland or Drickers because they are scheduled to fight for the belt, get that whole rivalry over with. And who do you do? Who do you give Izzy to? Who? Nobody. There's nobody out there. Izzy can't face Khamzat Chimaev. It doesn't make any sense. At this point, Khamzat is, in fact, I'm very shocked that Khamzat Chimaev, aka Boris, is not the one who's fighting for the belt. Why is it Sean Strickland? Why is it Sean Strickland? If anything, I would rather see Khamzat Chimaev fight for the belt or Khamzat fight Sean Strickland. Doesn't make any sense to do, to me personally, it doesn't make any sense to give Sean Strickland that shot before Khamzat Chimaev. Many may disagree, but a lot of people definitely think that Khamzat Chimaev, after his last performance against Robert Whittaker, that's a no-brainer. So, would you say Robert Whittaker fights Sean Strickland? Not really. Would you say Izzy fights Sean Strickland? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that would be a good matchup as of this point, even though I want Izzy to actually go back and get that W, regardless of the belt. But I think the UFC got it right by putting Imavov in this fight with Izzy. Because just looking at the landscape of the middleweight division, especially in the top 5, who else could they have fought? That made sense, of course. Really nobody. So with this fight happening, I'm gonna check it out, and it's free. It's free, guys. This is fight night. There's no. I mean, technically, is it free because you have to pay for the UFC and ESPN subscription, but you don't pay for the pay-per-view though. So it's free. Anyway, I'm going to watch it. I'm interested. I might even live stream that fight. I'm going to decide tomorrow whether or not I'm going to live stream because the UFC just literally just completely dashed my live stream hopes and views from the last UFC 311 event. Dear UFC, I am a small channel, okay? I'm a small channel, like to talk about MMA. I'm not making any money from your broadcast. I actually didn't show any videos. Can you fucking literally get me a strike when truth of the matter is I didn't show any videos from the UFC. There's an audio playing in the background and I was watching it. I don't know how this shit works, okay? But nonetheless, right? I think I might live stream that fight from Isreal Adesanya and Nasruddin Imavov. I'm gonna do that. We'll see how Saturday turns out. Guys, keep your eyes peeled. I might be going live. Let's just watch that thing together and see where it goes. Who do you guys think will win? If I'm being honest, of course, my money's on Izzy in terms of preference. I haven't really followed Imavov's career with that much curiosity and precision to know exactly what his fight style may translate to against Isreal Adesanya. I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I can't even sit here and say with confidence that these are aspects of his fight style that may work. However, I do know if he has a solid ground game, BJJ, scramble, wrestling, takedown offense, we most likely know how that's going to go. However, if he has less than decent striking, who's our money on? Our money is on the style bender. Okay? Our money's on the style bender. Let's keep it a buck. But then when you think about it, Sean Strickland did not go to the ground with Izzy and completely dominated Izzy in that fight. And I will never understand why that happened. Because Sean Strickland sucks ass. I'm sorry. That fight, I'm with Luke Rockhold when he said it on the Jackson podcast a couple of months ago. Rockhold said Sean Strickland is one of the most boring fighters in that division and in the entire UFC. It's the truth. The Philly shell defense, the little jab and the front kick. What else? If Sean Strickland translated his fight style in the octagon the same way he sparred Sneeko, the content creator, Sneeko, yeah, whatever. If Sean Strickland did that, bruh, that's probably one of the most exciting Sean Strickland fights I've ever seen. Sean Strickland's fights just they don't impress me. I'm sorry, they don't impress me. It works for him. He keeps doing it, but it doesn't make me look forward to Sean Strickland fights. I appreciate Sean Strickland as a fighter in terms of when I say that I respect fighters, but Sean Strickland doesn't. He just doesn't work for me, right? He doesn't work for me, and that's unfortunate. So let's see how that goes, right? Let's see if that's gonna work. I'm not feeling it. I don't know. I have no idea if that's gonna hit. I have no idea, but we'll see. Now, the next person, the next person who may walk out of that octagon when Izzy and MMA fight is I really don't know, man. I'm a casual, completely lost on this one. I'm not spitting it. I haven't listened to anybody to influence my decision. I don't feel confident in Izzy just coming out on top. He might surprise us. He's had some time off. He might surprise us. He might just do something out of the ordinary. He's been known to do that from time to time. But I don't see it. I'm rooting for him. If he wins, I'm happy. If he doesn't win, hey, listen, it's part of the game. Adesanya has lost so many times. He's lost enough times for me to be immune as a fan of his. I'm almost like desensitized to his losses, right? But I really love it when he wins. And I really love it when he wins and he makes fights fantastic. Like Izzy versus Kevin Gastelum, April 2019. One of the best fights in UFC history. One of the best fights in Izzy's career. In fact, might be the best fight in Izzy's career when he won the interim belt. Izzy versus Paulo Costa was a clinic in how you handle bullies. It was a clinic in striking. It was a clinic in leg kicks and the delivery of leg kicks. It was a clinic in head movement. It was a beautiful fight. And I understand Izzy, winning Robert Whittaker, but I think that's like fourth on the list. My third favorite Isreal fight is obviously the one where he takes the belt back and he does the whole frozen shot with the arrows, 3 arrows to Alex Pereira. Listen, that's the third. Then fourth will probably be the fight he had with Robert Whittaker, where he won the belt finally. So like I said, he's been known to do that. Let's see if this translates this time around. I'm not sure, but let's just see. Not really pushing it. Okay. The next story. Before I get to that story, anyway, I just want to say, listen, Izzy, best of luck, guy. If you win it, I'm happy. If you don't win it, also great. We'll be okay. We'll be happy, right? We'll move on. Let's move on. Transitioning now to so finally at UFC 311, it was announced that Alex Portan Pereira. I want to say Alex fucking Pereira, but hey, listen, Alex Portan Pereira is finally getting a chance to fight Magomed Ankalaev after all the dick teasing and after all the wait and the back and forth on Twitter or X or whatever it's called right now, all that crap. We are finally getting to see that fight, right? a very funny thing I wanted to point out. So I saw a clip with Yuri Prohaska on the Joe Rogan show, and in that clip, I think Joe Rogan asked Yuri Prohaska, Yuri, who do you think is going to win? Paraphrasing here, but that's exactly what the sentiment was. Yuri, who do you think is going to win? And Yuri said something that I just found very, very, very annoying and very. In Yuri's world, it might have seemed sensible, but to me, it's like, yeah, that's pretty dumb in MMA, right? So Yuri says, if Magomed Ankalaev sticks to his word and fights Alex Pereira the way he said he's going to fight Alex Pereira, which is Magomed Ankalaev says he's going to stand and trade with Alex Pereira. That is so fucking dangerous. Let's first acknowledge that. But if Magomed Ankalaev is going to do it, that is completely badass. If he's going to do it. So Yuri says that if he does that, he loses. But however, if he shoots or takes Alex Pereira to the ground, he has a better chance of winning. Now, Yuri, I don't care if Magomed Ankalaev is a man of his word or man of honor. Yeah, I don't care, if I'm being very honest. What I want to see is Magomed Ankalaev going into the octagon and displaying a wide variety of skills besides striking. I know that if he definitely strikes, he might get his lights put out. Most likely that's what's going to happen, right? But why would you want to take that risk? Why go through that kind of long win streak to finally get a chance at the belt and then keep your word and just stand and trade? Like that. Listen, I'm sorry, bro. If I was his coach, if I'm Magomed Ankalaev's coach, I'm throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, in that fight. Everything. You take that boy to the ground. That's his weakest game. Take him to the ground, pound the hell out of his ass. Oh, shit. That didn't come out right. That I take that back. Take that guy to the ground and keep him, do the ground and pound. That didn't come out right. Okay. So take him to the ground and completely beat him up. Then if you can take him to the ground, beat him up, exhaust him in the first two rounds, yeah, that strike game when he stands back up is not going to be fantastic. Then you can probably trade with him. You can't stand and trade with Alex Pereira from the moment the fight starts. You just can't do it. That is such a high-risk game. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to stand and trade with one of the most powerful strikers in the UFC today? An experienced kickboxer with so many fights. This dude puts lights out with 12-ounce gloves, with 6-ounce gloves. What the hell do you think he's going to do with 4-ounce gloves? I don't trust that Magomed Ankalaev's chin is going to be able to take it. In fact, most chins have not been able to take it. It's just the truth. So it might be a strategy for Ankalaev to say, "Oh, I'm gonna stand and trade with him." Khalil Roundtree did that. Look how that turned out. Khalil Roundtree said, "I'm gonna stand and trade with him." Yeah, great, Khalil. Good fight, good spirit. You fought very well. However, look what happened. Did you guys see Khalil Roundtree's face after fighting Magomed Ankalaev? Ankalaev literally, it felt like he carried a hatchet. This completely hacked Khalil's face in multiple places. with his fucking knuckles. Ridiculous. Why am I going to be Magomed Ankalaev and still stand and want to trade with such a dangerous man? I will not do it. As his coach, I would not advise him to do it. If he wants to go ahead and do it and lose this opportunity of a lifetime that he's been denied at least 4 times, Magomed, in my personal opinion, I think Magomed Ankalaev should have fought for that belt at least 2 fights ago. Best case scenario. I think he should have earned that belt or that shot 3 fights ago. But let's just say 2 fights ago. 2 fights ago, right? Don't go the round of Khalil. Please, please, please. You stand and trade with Alex, which will definitely be my preference for a fight. Stand and trade. Stand and trade. There's no crotch sniffing. There's no real takedown. I'm not really a big fan of the takedowns, I'm more a fan of the stand-up striking fights. But I appreciate the fact that you should be able to mix it up. That's why it's called mixed martial arts. It's not kickboxing. It's not karate combat. It's mixed martial arts. You can throw everything in there, including the kitchen sink. And hopefully you get your W. So very excited that this fight is happening. I don't like the fact that Ankalaev was screwed over by the UFC multiple times, right? We got to a point where even leading up to the new year, the exchange with Ankalaev and Alex Pereira online simply suggested that Ankalaev was not going to be next for the title shot. So I'm like, oh, okay, if Ankalaev is not next for the title shot, who's next? Who's going to be the person they're going to put in there with Alex Pereira? At some point, who did we heard it was someone at heavyweight. Oh yeah. There was a rumor that it was going to be John Jones, and I'm like, that makes no sense. That makes zero sense. John Jones allegedly supposed to be fighting Tom Aspinall, right? It hasn't been announced, but we all know that's the direction that the heavyweight belt is going to go. The heavyweight division is definitely going John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. What are we talking about? Where the hell did Alex Pereira come into the picture? That was a rumor, by the way. It was online. And you know how this thing is online. For the most part, it's all BS. However, sometimes, as the UFC and MMA fights go, sometimes when you hear fight rumors, there's usually no fire without a little smoke, or no smoke without fire, no smoke without spark. However way you put that, there's a little bit of truth to some rumors, right? So when I heard that, I was thinking to myself, okay, that's not going to make any sense, but I'll see it. I'll pay for it. I'll pay 85 plus taxes on that fight to see it. Then we had a bunch of other stories, and then eventually came out at UFC, at the broadcast at UFC 311, that Alex Pereira will be fighting Magomed Ankalaev. And I was like, oh, Uncle Dana, it's about time. It's about time you guys did the right thing. Because sometimes you guys know this, right? If you're a casual like me, you guys know, you've seen it enough times to know that Uncle Dana really sucks ass sometimes. They make some fights that don't make sense, right? Like, for instance, I'm sorry, I will say it all day, every day. Khalil Roundtree versus Alex Pereira did not make any sense. Magomed Ankalaev should have taken that fight. It really didn't make any sense. Now, I enjoyed the fight. Don't get me wrong. Khalil's stock went through the roof. I enjoyed that fight. Great fight. But no. Unfortunately, at that time, I think Magomed Ankalaev should have gotten that fight. Ankalaev is walked his way. It's at the point where you can't deny him. What are you going to do? You can't deny him. You just have to give him that shot. And then we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if Ankalaev sticks to his word or it's going to be a case of everybody has a plan until this acquaints itself with this. Everybody has a plan until this, once again, acquaints itself with this. We'll see how that goes, okay? I'm going to leave it for that. I'm going to leave it there for now while I jump on my next transition to the next topic. So next topic will be Jeremy Stevens versus Conor McGregor. And if you guys have been following Jeremy and Conor, like if you're a true fan of the sport, you know that one of the best diss lines, one of the best trash talks in the history of sports, hands down. It's a press conference. I can't remember what event, but it's a press conference. Jeremy Stevens was lined up behind on the top left corner of top left corner of Conor's shoulder, right? Conor side. And somebody asked Conor a question. And just while Conor was about to answer the question, Jeremy Stevens takes it upon himself to respond and says, I think the question was, who's the hardest hitting 145? I think at the time Conor was still in the 145 division. Who's the hardest hitting 145er in the division right now? And before Conor could answer, he actually had the mic, and before he could answer, Jeremy Stevens jumps in and he's like, it's me right here, or something. Paraphrasing, it's me right here. My name is Jeremy Stevens. I'm the hardest hitting 145er, right? Just thinking about it makes me laugh. Conor doesn't even look back to fucking acknowledge where the sound was coming from. Conor has the mic in his hand and he's like, who's speaking? He lets Jeremy talk. And then just at the point where Jeremy ends, Conor goes, the infamous line, like, who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that? And the whole fucking arena cracked up. Massive. And it was one of the best ever Conor moments and one of the best ever MMA trash talking moments of all time, right? And as much as that's been a while, it's been a little bit of a while, but there's always been that beef between Conor and Jeremy Stevens, right? I think Jeremy Stevens tried to clap back later with a picture of Conor's mama and him and Conor's mom. I'm like, yeah, that didn't even sit well. And it's the same way Conor had this silent press conference moment with Cowboy Cerrone. You guys remember that? Conor had that little quiet press moment with Cowboy Cerrone, and that little beef eventually led to a fight eventually down the line with Conor and Donald Cerrone, where Conor completely decimated and completely crushed Cerrone. I still think that fight was staged. Hey, listen, don't at me. I think that fight was staged. I'm sorry, because Cowboy Cerrone is a beast. I mean, he was a beast at the time he fought Conor. So, and Conor just completely ran through him. I'm like, how? Doesn't Cerrone fight sometimes at 170? And how did Conor just completely... Conor, who was at 145 at the time, comes up and just runs through Cerrone. Anyway, so over the weekend, or over the last couple of days, I think it was yesterday, I'm not sure, yesterday, I think Jeremy Stevens... Jeremy Stevens has left the UFC, by the way, and he's moved over to BKFC. So he signed in the BKFC, and he is he signed with BKFC, and he just fought. He was scheduled to fight Eddie Alvarez, and he did. He fought Eddie Alvarez, and he won Eddie Alvarez in bare knuckle fighting. Now, after winning Eddie Alvarez, Conor jumps in the ring and starts to ask for, doing a lot of his Conor shenanigans. And he tried to ask for a fight between Jeremy Stevens and himself so they can settle their beef. And it's like he wants to fight bare knuckle. And Conor also told the head of the BKFC, Dave Feldman, because Conor is a part owner of BKFC. Conor tells Dave Feldman that, listen, and backstage, and Feldman says this at the press conference. He says he wants to fight Jeremy Stevens. We all know that it will never happen in BKFC because the UFC has Conor locked in. It will never happen. I'm sorry. We can try all we want. It's just never going to happen. Ever. It's never. Dana is not going to allow it. And not only is Dana not going to allow it, I don't know if the BKFC has any kind of clause in their contract with Conor. I don't know what that structure is like. I just don't see it until the UFC releases Conor from his contract, which will never happen. The UFC is going to use Conor's image until he's 90, until he's 100. They will never let Conor McGregor go until Conor is 100. I just personally think so, right? I don't think that's going to happen. So if that fight ever pull through, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see Conor and Jeremy Stephens in bare knuckle. I don't think Conor has the brass balls for bare knuckle fighting. I don't think he's I think he's built that way. Right? But I'd see it. I would definitely like to see it. I can tell you that for free. Conor decides he wants to do that. I will see that fight. It's the truth. I'm going to jump on that one. And then it's almost like the Nate Diaz and Conor fight. If I see Conor in a fight, the third fight with Nate Diaz, which at this point I'm completely losing hope that it will happen. But if I see Conor do that, I'll be so happy. Conor and Nate settle that score, they're 1-on-1. Oh, that would be great. But again, it's just something worth talking about. I don't think it's going to happen. BKFC and the UFC do not have that kind of fantastic relationship where I can say they can collaborate on that level. So who knows? It might happen maybe when Conor is done with the UFC, when he's been released from his contract, which I do not believe will ever happen. Hey, listen, if you guys signed on and you're new to this channel, please hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Help us grow. Help me grow and spread the love. Okay. Moving on. So next topic. Tony Ferguson. Actually, no, not Tony Ferguson. Let me put it this way. I want to say Tony Ferguson has left the UFC, but no, I would put it this way. The UFC let 3 people go. It's just 3 people have just been cut from the UFC roster, and they're all veterans. Tony Ferguson was cut. Alexander Gustafsson was cut. I had no idea Gus was still on the UFC roster. And Chris Weidman finally cut. Come to find out, the GFL has picked them up. But we're going to get into that later in this conversation. But let's go to Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, I've been calling for Tony to just hang up the gloves, bro. You are losing so much of your legacy. Tony was completely losing a lot of his legacy, just trying to stay relevant in the UFC. And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself, bruv? Why? It just completely made no sense how much he was trying to get just one W and then continue to get L's and L's and L's. Tony's like 8 and 8 in his last 8 L's in his last 8 fights. Who does that? Who does that? Right? Who does that? Who is 8 and 8 in his last 8 fights? It makes no sense. Unfortunately, the UFC has caught him. And I'm saying fortunately because it was doing just so much damage to his brand. That whole El Kukui thing, listen, you cross 40, Father Time has hit. We have to just be realistic with ourselves. We have to tell ourselves the truth. Tony Ferguson no longer has that fire to fight anymore. I'm sorry. It doesn't even matter whether it's the UFC or he goes anywhere else to sign with some other organization. I do not see Tony Ferguson returning back to the glory days. With the amount of times his chin has been tested by everybody from Charles Oliveira to fucking Michael Chandler to who else? Everybody's knocked out Tony. Is it fair for him to keep going? It's not fair. So it's going to be honest. It's not fair for Tony to keep going. at all. So, for me personally, I think it's a good thing that Tony just got cut from the UFC. I really do. It's unfortunate that that is what it is, but we just need to call a spade a spade. I'm sorry, guys. I just keep checking my phone all the time. Anyway, let's pull back into this one. Okay. Um, if Tony signs to another organization, which it's looking like he may, what's that gonna look like? You're gonna do some good stuff there. You want to be a boxer? What's it gonna look like, Tony? Tony, I gave you advice. Please go back to some of my other videos. I gave you financial advice. I gave you business investment advice. I gave you financial strategy advices. Where you've made enough money in the UFC, you do have a brand and popularity on social media. I think you can capitalize on that to make more money. I don't think Tony Ferguson should ever fight for money ever again. It's not just worth it. The legacy, the El Kokui brand and legacy is being diminished every time he steps into a fight arena. Not the octagon, not a boxer. The moment he steps into a fight arena, it's a wrap. It just looks to me like, hey, you're about to lose again. Guys, if you just joined the stream, thank you. I really appreciate you. Please like the channel, help us grow, help me get it, get my get my viewership up, okay? So I'm going to transition right now to my next conversation. And like I said, I know this is an old conversation, but I haven't talked about it, and I really got to get this one off my chest. When Kevin Holland made an appearance on the Jackson podcast about 2 weeks ago, Lord have mercy, I was extremely pissed at how much chip Kevin Holland had on his shoulder. How can you go to Rampage's podcast and then completely try to disrespect him on the podcast, claiming that he tried to disrespect you on social media? It's extremely childish stuff. Like, I don't care if you're a fighter, bro. You can Kevin Holland. I love Kevin Holland, by the way. I'm a fan of Kevin Holland, but I'm less of a fan now, just because I saw that clip. And they eventually got to a point in the podcast where there was like a mutual understanding and some kind of consensus between them. It made no sense. It made no sense to me why Kevin Holland went on that show with that level of vitriol and animosity towards Quentin Jackson. Everybody knows Rampage has a certain kind of sense of humor. There's a certain delivery. I think Rampage is very funny, if I'm being honest. His chemistry between him and Bear, who's the co-host of the Jackson podcast, it's fantastic. And everybody who goes on that show has a great time with Rampage. Why did Kevin Holland not feel the same way? Why? Why did he feel like he was insulted by what's it called? Rampage Jackson. Why? Right? It just made no sense. He looked to me like he was showboating about guns and all that crap. I'm like, bro, you have an opportunity right now to meet and have a conversation and be friends with a guy who literally paved the way for you to get into the UFC and the fight game. One of the biggest superstars in UFC history was Rampage Jackson. And if you can find yourself seated in front of him for a podcast, bro, you should take that opportunity and just put your best foot forward and then just enjoy the show. But you get there with some kind of vitriol. Just made Kevin Holland look extremely immature. Absolutely immature. I did not like it. I didn't think it was good. I thought it was absolute bullshit. I thought it was absolute bullshit. Okay? And this is the funny part is I am a fan of Kevin Holland. I am also a fan of Rampage Jackson. I just literally, one of the videos I had out towards the end of the last year, I mentioned why I thought Kevin Holland was such a spectacular fighter. And by the way, he confirmed that on this podcast. He confirmed the fact that, and I called it, but he confirmed the fact that he's not really fighting for a belt. He doesn't want anything to do with a belt. He just likes to fight. And I'm like, yeah, you have no fighting championship aspirations. So he's just essentially, Kevin Holland has accepted his position as a gatekeeper. As a gatekeeper, he wants to fight three, 4 times a year, but has no aspirations to shoot for the belt. To each his own. Every other person, everybody's motivation in the fight game is different. I think if Kevin doesn't want to fight for the belt, we can't force him to do it, right? We can only hope that one day he stacks up enough wins where he has no choice but to fight for the belt. Because I think Kevin does a good job, but he's not championship material. Let's be real. He's just not championship material. We have to accept it for what it is. Okay? We have to accept it for what it is. But yes, I needed to get that one off my chest. I did not like the fact that that was how he presented himself to Quentin Jackson, when there were a myriad of other ways he could have done it to make himself come off as more mature, more likable to the fans, and hopefully win over a few fans from Quentin's side to his. But hey, again, they found some kind of common ground. And after that podcast, Kevin Holland eventually went on to lose to, what's his name? It's the last fight he had. He lost. The new dude from One Championship. I've forgotten his name. The Australian dude, right? Yeah, well, Kevin lost to the dude. Renier? What's his name? Not sure. I'm gonna have to again look back and verify these things. But I just had to get that one off my chest, Kevin. Transition to the GFL. And what's going on with the GFL? Guys, listen, before I get into the story with the GFL, if you just logged in or if you just tuned into this live stream, please like the channel. I really appreciate it because it's going to help us grow. The more people who like, the more people who share the stream, the better the algorithm will pick it up and help us grow, okay? I really, really appreciate it. Trust me, it's just a little button, little click of the like. I know you're there. A little like will help us get a long way. Anyway, the GFL, the Global Fight League. I was a bit excited when I heard about the GFL coming in. I don't know who's really backing it. I've gone on the website, looked at a few names, and none of the names there in terms of the founders or the executives seem familiar to me. None of them, right? For them to come out and they're signing this bunch of UFC dropouts. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. The GFL is signing a bunch of UFC dropouts, including Paige Van Zandt, Alexander Gustafsson, I believe, Tony Ferguson, I think Chris Weidman, and a lot of other fighters. I think Junior Dos Santos is also there. For me, I'm like, okay, you signed all these big former UFC names, but how are you signing guys that didn't do too well in the UFC or guys that are not necessarily in their prime, even if they did very well in the UFC? What would be the point of signing them way past their prime? What is this, a paycheck? Do you think these guys are going to be able to bring some money? What's the deal? Doesn't make any sense to me. I've tried to wrap my head around it. I've tried to understand where it's coming from, but yeah, it doesn't make any damn sense to me. You know? I think the GFL may be backed by some very, very powerful financial. They may have some very good financial backers, and in the long run might want to go against the UFC. But you've got to ask yourself, right? So far in the fight game, everybody who's tried a model outside of the model for Horizon or ONE FC and the UFC has failed. Everybody has failed. Most people who get it right are sort of following the format of the UFC. So my question for the GFL is, what's their format going to be like? No, information is still coming out. We're not exactly sure, but it's looking to me like they may have something up their sleeves. I don't know who their chief strategist is. I don't know if it's something where they may I don't know if they're going to come out and be able to rival the UFC, if that makes sense. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's see. I'm hoping that they do, at least stateside, have I'm hoping they have a strategy that can get them to the level of the UFC in a 10-year window. But you can't just be doing it off known names. I'm trying to wrap my casual brain around how it's going to work with the GFL. I wish I could sit down with the founder of the GFL and interview him to understand the strategy, to understand the long-term goal of the GFL, to understand the financial power behind the GFL, things like arenas. What kind of arenas are they going to use? Where they want to have their events? Is it going to be US? Is it going to be global? What's it looking like? I really would love to hop on that one and see where that goes. I really would. But for now, there's nobody who's giving us there's nobody giving us any concrete information for the GFL. None. Nobody. So what are we going to do? We're going to wait. We're just going to keep waiting until the GFL decides to do something that works. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but we will see where that goes, sir. And on that, I'm going to transition now to my man, Mr. Moicano. Moicano likes money. Guys, if you guys join this channel, please like live stream. It really helps. It helps get us a long way, and I really appreciate that. If you just like the channel, I really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, so Money Moicano. Renato Moicano just came off a tremendous loss to what's his name? Just came off a tremendous loss to Islam Makhachev. Moicano stepped in on 1 day's notice. He was scheduled to fight Benil Dariush, and he stepped in on 1 day's notice to fight Islam Makhachev. And that title run and title aspiration got quenched real quick. Right? I'm sorry, like we all knew. Renato Moicano is a beast. And ever since he, went up against, what's his name? Benoit Saint-Denis and did that damage to Benoit, I was like, okay, hey, listen, he did that to Benoit, he did that to Jalen Turner. Moicano can fight, right? But I don't think Moicano was ready for Moicano was not ready for the level of skill that Islam Makhachev was bringing into that octagon. That's just the truth. These guys, some guys, especially the Dagestanis, man, these Dagestanis are built different. You can't go and fight a Dagestani in Khabib's camp on 1 day's notice. It's just not possible. Sorry. And Islam Makhachev went in there and made very light work of Renato Money Moicano, my man, Money Moicano, and I really love Moicano. But there's a silver lining in this story because Moicano recently came out on Gilbert Burns' podcast, right? Guys, hey, listen, if you just joined this channel, you just joined this live stream, please, I really appreciate it if you could just click that little like button. And I appreciate, even if you want to leave, just a little like, help us grow here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right, so back to Moicano. So Moicano goes on Gilbert Burns' podcast, and he discloses that he made upwards of $900,000 for stepping in on 1 day's notice to fight Islam Makhachev, and I'm like, Money Moicano finally gets paid. I was so happy. Guys, when I tell you, you guys don't even understand. I was very happy. I was so happy for Moicano. Finally able to get that kind of money, get paid. And even if he earns 150 for his next fight, he's a company man. He's done some good stuff for the UFC. And the UFC definitely know his value now. Moicano brings the crowd. He pulls people, puts seats, butts in seats. He does. He moves the needle a little bit, but he does move the needle. Because I noticed even after, and Uncle Dana confirmed this, that even when Arman Sarukian pulled out of the fight with Islam Makhachev on 1 day's notice, the moment Moicano stepped out, it was announced that Moicano, which took me by surprise, by the way, it was announced that Moicano was going to be the one fighting Islam Makhachev for the belt. Guess what? They made more pay-per-view sales. I'm like, okay. Money Moicano deserves a little bit of that action. And he did. He got it. He got it. And the moment I heard that he made that kind of money, I was so happy. I was pleased. My spirit was at peace, knowing that finally Moicano got money. Guys, if you just joined the live stream, I would really appreciate a little like. You don't even need to subscribe, but just like. I'd advise you subscribe, but if you don't, that's also fine. Just a little like to help this channel grow, help the algorithm get us out there. I really appreciate it. If you just joined, please like, and you can go about your merry day if you want. You don't want to stay and listen to my rants, okay? But yeah, like I said, I was very happy with Moicano. I really appreciate the fact that Moicano made that kind of money. I don't know if that's gonna translate to his next fight. I don't see it happening. But if Moicano can make upwards of 250, 350, give or take, per fight, he's earned it. He put in the work. He's a company man. He brings eyes to the sport and any fight that he does. It is just the truth. And I'm very, very, very happy for him for getting that money. Okay. This is my last conversation for today on this live stream because I try to keep the stream at about an hour. I'm about to wrap up. And I'm going to be talking about the potential fight between Illia Toporia and Alexander Volkanovski, which I think is the right fight to make at the 145 division right now. I don't want to see the super fight between Illia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. I just don't want to see it. I probably know how that fight is going to go, but I don't want to see it. I want to see Volk get that second shot at Islam and a chance to regain the belt, because Volk was such a fantastic champion at 145. Now, the question is this. Has Alexander Volkanovski's chin recovered? I'm just saying. Has it recovered? Is it fully back where it used to be? Because Volk could take shots and nothing would happen. But then you got kicked in the head by Islam Makhachev and completely ragdolled, KO'd by Illia Topuria. I mean, granted, these are two high caliber fighters, right? But Alexander Volkanovski has taken shots from Max Holloway before, a lot of times, and never went to sleep. And you can't tell me Max Holloway does not have one punch knockout power. Ask the Korean Zombie and ask Justin Gaethje if Max has that kind of power. And Volk took that kind of power. It took those punches from Max pretty darn well, if I may say so myself. But between the leg kick from Islam Makhachev and the punch from Illia Topuria, is Volk really ready to go back in there with Illia? I don't know. It will be a glorious story. It will be so glorious, and I really like Alexander Volkanovski. If Volk can go in there and take that belt back, Oh, I'd be so happy. That would be my preference. Honestly, I'd be pleased if Volk can do that. Oh, jeez, Louise. Listen, it might solidify him as one of the top three goats in the featherweight division. I know he's there. I know it's right now. It's between Volkanovski, Jose Aldo, and Max Holloway for 145. Hands down. Hands down. Conor has done some great things at 145, but he's not on my top five 145ers of all time. I'm sorry, it's not. But if Volk can go there and do that to Ilya, if he can go there and win, not just defeat Ilya, but do that via stoppage. Doesn't matter. Choke, KO, stoppage, whatever. If he does that, TKO, oh my Lord Jesus. I'd be so happy. I will be elated for Volkanovski, but I'd also like him to retire. listen. And I know that sounds controversial. People don't like to use the R word, when it comes to MMA, retire. But if more fighters retired like Khabib, we may have less highlights going, but we will have better legacies in the long run. I mean solid legacies, right? Nobody wants to go out the way Tony Ferguson went out. Nobody wants to go out the way Conor is going out, because Conor is going out. Conor has, give or take, I don't see Conor doing another 3 years tops in the UFC. That's it. It's wrapping up. That illustrious career. It's wrapping up. And in the next 3 years, I can't even guarantee you that Conor is going to win as many fights as he used to back in the glory days. I'm just sorry. I don't think that's just going to happen. To me, again, this is just my personal opinion. I am not an analyst, not an analyst, right? But in my personal opinion, I just do not think that Conor is going to. I don't think Conor has many years left in the fight game as in total, and I think he's going to completely fight to get the biggest bag he can get right now, and that's why you have to start hearing talks about shit like Conor wants to fight Logan Paul. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck wants to Conor? Conor annoys me sometimes, right? The fuck do you want to fight Logan Paul for? Makes no sense. But hey, it's his life, right? Back to Alexander Volkanovski and Illia Topuria. I can't wait for that fight to happen. I don't even know if that's been announced yet. I think I saw that as a rumor, but I'm going to keep my eyes and my ears peeled on that one. I really, really, really want to see it. And at this point, remember, guys, if you follow, you know I do not like, or rather, a few months ago, I did not like Illia Topuria. I thought Illia was brash. I thought Illia was unoriginal. I've said that. I've used that many times to describe Illia Topuria. That whole press conference with Volkanovski the first time where he's grabbing the belt, he's acting like Conor. I mean, I understand you want to sell the fight, but bro, do something original, right? But then my sentiments towards Illia changed after the last fight. After the last fight with Max Holloway and Illia did exactly what he said he was going to do, I actually became a fan. I'm sorry. I'm a fan of Illia Topuria. So now I'm a fan of Illia Topuria and I'm a fan of Alexander Volkanovski. And I want to see them slug it out a second time. I'm sorry. And who knows? We might see a trilogy, right? Volk is known for good trilogies. What if Volk wins this next fight with Illia? Just what if? It may or may not happen. But what if Volk wins that fight? Then guess what? They'll run it back one more time to the glory of we fans and we casuals. The casuals we would love to see that. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward. There's a lot of stuff happening in the landscape. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up here for now. If you joined this live stream and you haven't liked, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's going to help the channel go. And I really want to have conversations with you guys. I really want to talk. I really want to talk and see what your opinions are on the fight game, what my dumb thoughts are, and anything you agree or disagree with me. This is a space for healthy debates, and you guys know that, okay? Thank you for joining me. I'm going to get my ass off this live right now, and we will have a conversation again very soon. I might live stream that fight between not live stream the fight, but live stream my reaction to the fight night between Adesanya and Imavov. Who knows? We'll see. I'm going to let you guys know on Saturday morning, EST, just to make sure. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I'm about to log out. You have a great evening, Mr. TDC. Signing out. Peace.